your host, King. And today I'm definitely proud and excited of interviewing my next guest. This gentleman is someone who I know is definitely a conscious leader, is doing some of the work that I'm looking to begin to build myself within Baltimore City. I'll definitely look forward to this discussion. And I want to bring to King Connections Mr. Mark Monchek. If I said it correctly, Mark?
Monchek correctly. Yes, sir.
Welcome to King Connections.
Thanks, King. So blessed to be here. Appreciate your time, and I love the questions you provided me this morning. So I am looking forward to diving in with you.
Excellent, excellent. Now, my first question, which is not part of my questions list, but it sets the context for the energy of the show, is to ask you this question. And what would you say is your energy, your spiritual energy number, meaning from a spectrum of 0 being life sucks to 10 being life is awesome? Where would you say you are right now within that spectrum?
At this moment, I think I'm at a 9. I try to aspire to be a 10, but I'm here because of your energy and your love and welcoming me. I'm at a 9, and I imagine I'll be at a 10 by the time we finish today.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you for indulging me. I always ask that question when I have my meetings or when I do my presentations, because when I found out that, like Einstein says, energy is everything and everything is energy, and there's people in
Mm.
the room that's 2s and 3s, they're not going to be as engaged, they're not going to be as present, and it wouldn't be a great session. So thank you for indulging me with that. I look forward to building with folks who are 8, 9s, and 10s. So thank you for indulging me with that question.
Oh, it's a great question to start. Thanks for getting me started with that.
Now, my first question, this is one of my favorite questions, because as I look to talk to conscious leaders, and conscious leaders really understand this more importantly than most other individuals, is having that purpose in life. And so with that being said, what would you say your purpose in life is?
My purpose in life is to co-create opportunity with the people I love and the causes I believe in.
Wow.
So, my book is called Culture of Opportunity: How to Grow Your Business in Age of Disruption. My company is called Opportunity Lab. And I believe I was brought here in this life to be able to see opportunity even in the darkest of times and even in the greatest of adversity. And so that's what I do my best to try to see opportunity no matter what the situation is, and particularly for the people in my life that have supported me and loved me, and also the causes that I'm so passionately believing in.
Excellent. Love that answer. Yeah, I could definitely see our alignment that we have there, which is one of the reasons I do the podcast. And now, as we talk about conscious leaders, the term consciousness gets thrown out quite a bit, especially as people say conscious leader. It could be meaning a variety of different topics in different areas. So I'm always curious to know from a conscious leader how you define what a conscious leader is. How would you define a conscious leader?
To me, a conscious leader, King, is somebody who is very deeply aware of the interdependence of life on this earth and the interdependence that any business has or any organization has to all of the sources of life, the people, the organizations, the governments, the planet that support that business or organization existing. So to me, consciousness is ever expanding because there's always more to be aware of in the world in which we live. So conscious leaders are deeply caring about loving their customers, their associates, their shareholders, and the communities they do business in, because they have a responsibility to that community, because that community and the people who work with you, your organization, is what makes your organization be able to exist in the first place. Without customers, without associates, without the communities, the schools, the roads, the parks, a business could not operate. So it's really about the consciousness of our responsibility to all of those stakeholders.
Love your answers. And when you say independent, one of my favorite books is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And I love how Stephen Covey talks about that dependent, independent, and interdependent. And I've broken myself against those principles of trying to do interdependent activities with people at the dependent level. I realize that that's hard. So thank you for sharing that, because again, that shows me that you are in the same alignment with some of the things we're reading and some of the things we believe in, which is, now my next question. One of the things I am a person, I look for folks who are grateful. And to me, gratitude is something that's very important in a person, myself, and in the people I connect with. And in that space, what would you say you're most grateful for?
Well, King, in the bigger picture, I'm grateful that I have the ability to actually live my purpose, that I
Mm.
have enough food to eat, I have the support of my family, my company, clients. I live in a safe community, which not everybody does today in this world. And so I feel like I have the ability to actually live that purpose. And I try to think about that every single day. I get up in the morning, I pray, I have a gratitude practice. I think about who am I grateful for? What am I grateful for every day? And it could be as simple as, you know, the table that I get to eat on, or the food I get to eat, or the fact that I can breathe and I'm not in a hospital, hooked up to a respirator. And then, of course, all the people that help me every single day.
Excellent, excellent. I share some of those same gratitudes. I'd say that, I'm grateful for being able to see, hear, breathe among my few of my things I'm grateful for because no matter what the project that I'm working towards or the proposal I'm sending out that I think that may be life changing, if I can't see that morning when I wake up, that's going to be the most dominant thing. That's going to supersede any other thought. So just being grateful for those things that we take for granted on a daily basis. But I know folks who don't wake up with a sound mind and those things. So that's why gratitude for me is so important.
Thank you.
Uh, Now, I'm really curious as we shift now into your business. So that's going to be a two-part question. That is, what is the mission of Opportunity Lab? And then also, what inspired you to create Opportunity Lab as well?
So the mission of Opportunity Lab is to support business growth through expanding consciousness. So business growth, to me, in today's world, has to happen through expanded consciousness in order for it to be sustainable. Right now, we've got a world in which businesses have not, for the most part, respected the interdependencies we talked about just a moment ago. And so we've got a planet that is on fire. We've got people who can't afford to eat, can't afford to have a place to live, and yet businesses are making record profits, and something seems wrong about that. It seems wrong that 40% of the food that's consumed every day gets thrown out, when yet we have people who are starving. So I believe that the way that we're going to get to that next level of abundance, where, as Bruce Springsteen said, nobody wins until everybody wins, is through expanding our consciousness of the interdependence of all things in the world, which I spoke about earlier.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, and in that space, in reading and doing research about you, from reading the websites, reading the book, as well as reading your LinkedIn profile, I came across success DNA. And I understand what those words mean, but I want to hear you define from your perspective when you say, how do you how do you help businesses determine their success DNA? Let me ask the question now.
Yeah, so let me tell you a little bit about the origin of Opportunity Lab, and which was the second part of your earlier question, and that will lead me into the answer to Success DNA. Right?
Okay.
So back in 2008, I had been to India, came back from 3 weeks in India, where I saw the poorest people that I had ever seen in my life, people who literally don't even have a roof over their head, the way we would consider a roof. But they were so loving to me and so, welcoming to me when I went into the rural communities in which they lived. And I got so much experience of God and experience of that infinite intelligence in my 3 weeks in India. Came back and found out just a week later that somebody had stolen an enormous amount of money from my company. So here I was, my heart was open. I was taking in, all of this beautiful energy from thousands of years of different wisdom traditions in India, and then had my heart broken. And I went into a very, very dark, deep depression at the same time that the American economy, the world economy, was also crashing and going into this severe recession. So I was hospitalized. I got out of it. I woke up, and the first word out of my mind was in my mind was opportunity. What is the opportunity in this adversity that I had come to? And then I started seeing our company's clients and other clients, some of them were actually growing and rising and starting their businesses at the very height of this worst recession since the Great Depression. And other companies who were dynamic, iconic, successful, literally went out of business within months, right? So you had Lehman Brothers, you had Bear Stearns, you had AIG, Washington Mutual, Nokia, Blockbuster, uh, you name these companies that were number one, number two in the market, and suddenly the recession hits and they're gone. And yet other companies, Etsy, Uber, Airbnb, Facebook was only 4 years old in 2008 when this hit. Google had only started in 1999. So you start to see these companies rising up and successful. What is happening here? So I started going back and looking at, well, is there a pattern? Is there some profile that makes companies successful over time? And I started seeing this pattern, which I now call success DNA. And I looked at the success pattern of my life in my company. And I started to see there was a synergy between the conditions that exist inside of an organization and the conditions that exist out there in the world. And when I did my success DNA, I started to see the conditions inside of my organization, and particularly inside of me as an entrepreneur. When my biggest successes happened, I was committed to the client fully. I had the similar values and really deeply cared about this particular opportunity. I had a deep personal relationship with the people I was working with, and I was able to operate at my highest level of skill and competency. In the world outside, situations that were the greatest success for me, where the organization was in a crisis or about to hit a crisis, and I was able to see the unique greatness in that company and be able to help them move on to that next level of evolution of their business. And then the aha moment was, okay, so what is the biggest failure that I had or another organization has? And when you contrast the failure to all the successes, you start to say, when I fail, I go off of the things that make me or my company uniquely successful. I get greedy, I get opportunistic, I take shortcuts, I don't stick with the company that I really believe in. I go after something because I need the money, or I need the ego, or I need something outside of what truly matters to me. That's how I developed Success DNA. And that's how, when we go into companies, we ask them, what are the 5 most important, most successful endeavors you have done in the last several years? Inside the organization, what are the conditions? Outside the organization, and then what's the biggest failure? And Christopher, when you hear the biggest failure, there's that aha moment, say, oh my goodness, we understand now why we fail, and we actually can own the things that actually make us uniquely great.
I love that answer. And I was thinking about how you turn, again, adversity. That's a Chinese symbol. Sometimes I hear Japanese symbol, but there's a symbol that says, there's danger on one side and there's opportunity when you flip it over. And you were able to pivot. And I myself had to pivot from what the pandemic did to my business. And I think it's very important to understand how to pivot, but I think it all begins with, as you said, when you woke up, you were, before you even went into your coma, you were experiencing this epiphany of awakening of your consciousness, and then that happened. So that path that you were laid down, that's just a wonderful story. And as I began to read your book that you sent me, so thank you for sending your book. I think your book is great. I love the layout of your book, where you talk about the opportunity zone, and then you lay out your methodology, and then you get into actual case studies. And that's what leads me to my next question. So I would love for you to share one of your case studies of one organizations you worked with that you helped them to kind of develop their opportunity, their success DNA within your methodology.
So I'm gonna give you an example that's not in the book, but it absolutely highlights success DNA and the whole process that we work with in the book Culture of Opportunity. So several years ago, I was brought into a company that had 2 partners that were constantly fighting with one another. And there were 2 businesses that were separate from one another, but they actually had a lot of synergies between them. So this was a point of purchase display company. So when you go into a supermarket, let's say you go into Walmart or you go into Costco, you go back to the back of the store and you'll see all of the displays that hold product, right? So when you go back to get a soda, there's a point of purchase display there at the counter. You'll see candy. You'll see all kinds of different impulse items. They would design and manufacture all of the point of purchase displays that you would see in a retail store, right? So they had two companies, two owners who shared ownership in each company, were fighting with one another. So we went in there and we said, guys, what is your vision? What is your mission? What is it actually you want to accomplish? And as we got them clear on the mission and vision, and we looked at the assets of these two different businesses, we realized, first of all, there was an alignment between these two gentlemen, and that the two businesses were much stronger and better together. So we merged them together. And then we looked at what is the success DNA of this organization. Display Technologies was the name of the company. And we started to see they had an amazing ability to design displays that were really necessary for their customers, which were large consumer packaged goods companies and sometimes the supermarkets or the retail stores themselves. And so they saw themselves as just a vendor. We will make a display, sell you the display. But I saw to myself, because I would go into the stores and I was like, these guys have an in-store advertising firm. They're creating signage, they're creating call outs, they're actually making the products more appealing to buy and easier to take into the cash register, right? I said, you guys really are an in-store advertising firm. They said, really? We didn't even see that because they were so close to the business and they were thinking of themselves the same way all their competitors were. So if you remember back at this time, there was a war between the cola companies, between Coca-Cola and Pepsi-Cola, and anything that either one of those companies could do to build market share, they would do. So we designed with our client this point of purchase display where you could go into a store and you could see the Coca-Cola logo. Coca-Cola was their client at that time, where before the holder of this Coca-Cola was opaque. They designed something that was clearly transparent, and it created millions, tens of millions, hundreds of $1 million of new sales for Coca-Cola. Then Pepsi-Cola said, we want the same thing, but it was an exclusive, 2-year exclusive. So then they designed something for the convenience stores where they actually had a shed where you could hold cold sodas in where the gas station portion of the convenience store was. They sold tens of millions of dollars of soda as a result of that particular invention. So we got them to shift their consciousness from we're a vendor and we have to sell on price to we're actually an in-store advertising firm and we're selling on value. And the companies then started to roll up. So they went from 20 people to 120 people, from local to national to global, from 8 million to 80 million. And then they were sold to a British private equity firm. And they then took their money and retired and were happy. So that was not what I would say a conscious business, because I wasn't really in that consciousness mode back then. What I did learn was every company has a unique greatness, has a success DNA, and you have to really understand how to see it. And the success DNA exercise is one amazing way to do that.
Excellent, excellent. Great story. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
As I listen to you, and I listen to again some of the trials and tribulations that you've had to go through, the success you just shared, I'm always curious to know, when I meet an individual, what are they committed to? I think that's an important question, because a lot of people are not clear on what they are committed to, or they're not committed to things that are in alignment with their purpose or their principles in their life. So I'm curious to know, as I ask you that question, what are you most committed to?
Well, going back to my mission, which is to co-create opportunity with the people I love and the causes I believe in, and the mission of our business opportunity lab, which is to support business growth through expanding consciousness. I'm committed to expanding my consciousness, helping create opportunities with myself and for the people that I love. And it's all about awareness of how I fit into the world. It's awareness about how I operate in the world. So my commitment is really to be the best human being that I can be, the kindest, the most understanding, the most empathetic, the most insightful, whatever I can do to make that contribution. And so I've done everything that I have ever learned is possible about expanding consciousness. So from vision quests, traveling around the world, to meditation, to meeting other conscious leaders, to going on retreats, to taking different indigenous medicines in different local communities around the world to expand that consciousness. That's really been my commitment, to be a better person, to be a better leader, to develop better organizations.
Excellent, excellent. Now, one last question about your business, and I want to shift more to you personally. And I'm curious to know from your experience and your perspective as well, what are some of the common mistakes that you see small micro businesses make as they just getting started or they're trying to expand?
There's a book that I read probably 30 years ago that sticks with me today. It's called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And the reason I'm referencing this book in response to your question about the most common mistakes is, he says that the difference between an entrepreneur and an owner of a business, or he'll call it a shopkeeper, is the person who is that shopkeeper or that business owner. They basically started a business because they wanted a better job, right? They saw an opportunity to use a skill that they had in their job, and they went out and they used that skill in their own business. They didn't really have a mission or a vision or an understanding of the long-term purpose of that business or the responsibility as a conscious leader. They just decided, I don't like my job. I'm not making enough money. It's too many hours. Somebody's telling me what to do, and I just want to be my own boss and have a better job. So yeah, there are a lot of businesses like that, and those businesses succeeded for many, many years. However, when it hits a point of crisis where things change, those business owners are not capable of changing because there's no higher purpose to their business, and they were just out there to make some money to have that better job that they owned, right? So true entrepreneurs actually want to create something that has higher value, higher purpose in the world than just having a better job. So I encourage the small business owners to really come in with a mission, with a purpose, with a longer term understanding of how you can contribute to the world, and truly understand, how do I actually do something for my customers, my associates, my communities that they need, that they don't have right now. And so it's that what we call that unique value proposition, or what is it that you're contributing that is very special and important that people are going to want to buy over time.
Excellent, excellent. Now, as we shift over to really get an understanding about who you are as a conscious leader, I'm curious to know, along your journey, has there been one decision that you've made that has been the most significant? I think it may be what you kind of already shared, but I'm open to hearing another one that you may have gone through that has been the most significant decision and the most meaningful in your life.
Well, the series of decisions really is just about, how do I be a more conscious person, a better person, and what are the opportunities there. Certainly, my decision to have a child, I think, was life changing for me, because it's one thing to say that we're interdependent, and we certainly are. When you have your own child and that child comes into this world in front of your eyes, you start to see how absolutely dependent that infant is coming out of their mother's womb, and how they are 100% responsible. You are 100% responsible for their life, and committed to doing everything and anything to help your child live and thrive and hopefully be their best self. So I think having a child was a very specific decision within the larger decision to continually just to try to be a better person.
Excellent, excellent. Now, I'm a person who's built connections for a business. My business is predicated on meeting people and understanding how to go about building strategic relationships with my clients. So I have a very strict methodology that I follow when I look for connections. And I had to actually, when I began to hold those individuals accountable to those characteristics, I realized I got to first start with myself and ask myself, do I exhibit those same characteristics? And now I kind of really put myself in that space. But I'm driven by those key characteristics, and I'm curious to know, along your journey and your business experience, when you are looking or when you establish new connections, when someone sends you a LinkedIn request, are there certain characteristics that you look for in the individual before you accept or deal with people that you're possibly reaching out to connect with?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you an example with how we met, right? So I get probably maybe a dozen, maybe more than a dozen LinkedIn invitations every week, and it's mostly people selling me something. Oh, we got this, we got that, we got this, we got that. They don't even know who I am. They're like selling me stuff that I don't want anybody to sell anything to me. I want them to get to know me. When you sent me an invitation, you said, "Hey, I looked at your book, I looked at your website. You're doing something really important. I have a podcast on conscious leadership. I'd love you to be on it. Are you available? You're interested? You want to talk?" You set up a conversation with you and I several weeks ago because you wanted to make sure I was the right person and that I understood enough about what you were trying to do. So you took care to care about me and to care about the fact that maybe we had something we could help each other with. And those are the connections I love to have. And those are the ones that are meaningful to me.
Thank you for sharing. And a follow-up question to that is, again, as I said before, my goal is to help businesses by helping them identify strategic partners. A lot of people don't understand that you can't achieve sustainable success alone, and especially small micro businesses, which is what my target market is, and help them realize how best to reach out to the strategic thinking partner and build that relationship, as you said earlier, co-create together. So within that, who would you say would be a great strategic partner for you?
You know, King, we have a tremendous amount of experience, processes, and content around conscious business, conscious leadership, conscious culture. So we would love to meet a company that has an online community of conscious leaders that want the kind of content, the experiences, tools, and processes that we have. So we think we could serve those communities extremely well. So that would be the one that comes to mind first for me right now.
Okay, excellent. Now, of all the things that you've accomplished in your life, what would you say has been the most rewarding?
Well, there's so many of them, but I would say going back to having a child, having that child grow up to be healthy, successful, kind, a major contributor to society, and then having a grandchild 2 years ago. My granddaughter just celebrated her second birthday on July 27th, having another granddaughter coming in December. That certainly was an incredibly important, contribution or that I was able to make and be part of and be very, very grateful for. Uh, Certainly in 9/11, I was sitting at home in New York City, that terrible day when those planes hit the towers, and I was desperate and depressed and sad. What do I do? I felt helpless, and I got a call that Friday of the week of 9/11 to a company that lost 62 people in the Trade Center. So I would say one of the most meaningful experiences of my life, what I'm very proud of, is I was able to go in a half a mile from ground zero and help this company rebuild and healed the lives of the people who survived and the families of the people who were lost, through some of the work that we do here at Opportunity Lab. So that's one of the most important events, and we celebrated the 20th anniversary of this company's survival from 9/11 last September. And I went to a reunion, and it was very deeply moving to see these folks still alive and having brought up families and having supported communities and all of that.
Powerful. Thank you for sharing. Now, I know that one of the things that I have to wrestle with on a daily basis is, and I let this beginning question with, what's your spiritual energy number? Mine is a 10, and I don't ever see a value of being less than a 10, but that's a choice. But that's also work to be a 10. It's not just I'm a 10 just because I choose to be a 10. It's getting in that state of mind. I go through certain morning rituals to get myself in that state of mind. And I'm always curious to learn what other conscious leaders go through to get themselves in that positive state of mind, especially when you're a leader and you have direct reports and other folks feed off your energy. If you bring a negative energy into the office, and that kind of sets the culture. So would you share with us what some of the morning rituals that you go through to kind of keep you in a positive state of mind and a conscious and loving perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. I will go back to the night before and share the evening rituals because The evening rituals set up the morning rituals, right? So when my daughter was about 18 months old, she made a decision that she was not going to sleep in her crib. She was going to sleep in our bed. And that was the first and only true battle of the minds and wills that I had with my daughter over a protracted period of time. And the reason I'm telling you the story in reference to the sleep routines, I realized how important it is to have a set of rituals to actually go to bed, right? People think much more about their morning rituals than their evening rituals. So in order for her to feel comfortable and safe sleeping in her crib rather than our bed was to actually start the evening routine at a very specific time, same time every night, with a bath, and then getting my daughter ready for bed, and then reading her a story, and making the transition from being awake to being asleep to being a soft, gentle, pleasurable experience.
Hmm.
And I was able to retrain her to be able to really enjoy sleeping in her bed, but it took a time, and I wanted to be 100%. I am here, and I am going to literally sleep next to your bed. I pulled the mattress from the guest room to be able to say, I am safe. I am watching you. I am here if there's anything you need because you're afraid to go to sleep by yourself, right? So that rooted inside of me the importance of evening rituals and really understanding that sleep is an absolutely essential activity to our lives. And I grew up not understanding that. I thought sleep is just something you sort of have to do. And when you really study sleep, there's so much that happens when you are surrendering to not being awake, right? So you dream, and those dreams often work out conflicts and struggles you're having during the day. You're refreshing yourself, you're nourishing yourself, and you're really giving your brain, along with the rest of your body, a chance to just be and rest and love yourself unconditionally because you're not doing anything, and not doing anything in the outside world. So I think we are a sleep deprived nation. And in order to get up in the morning and feel awake and alive and actually have the ability to have morning rituals, you have to have a set of evening rituals that allow you to have a peaceful, restful night's sleep.
Absolutely. I couldn't concur with that more. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Okay.
A lot of times I
So,
don't. I'm sorry. I didn't cut you off. But
yeah, I interrupted you, Christopher. I'm sorry.
and I love that you talked about the importance of having an evening ritual because I myself wrestle a lot of times going to bed late, which impacts my morning ritual. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I used to go to bed late myself, and the reason was I thought, well, I just didn't have enough experience. I didn't see that television show that I wanted to, or I didn't call that friend that I wanted to, or I didn't read that book, and I realized I just got to surrender to say I did the best I could today. This was the best day I could have, and tomorrow is another day, and let me trust that tomorrow will be the best day I can make it. And one of the things that I did mention earlier is I have this 6-minute journal, which at the end of the day, actually reflect for about 3 or 4 minutes, just shortly, is in this journal. What did I accomplish? What am I grateful for? What insights did I have? What was that made me happy? And that actually helps me go to bed because I process the infinite number of experiences you have every day. And I think that's also something important, is like give yourself some time to actually reflect and integrate all the things that happened inside and outside of you during a given day.
Excellent, excellent. Now to my last two questions, which I biased to say these are my two favorite questions. And that question would be, what would be a great king connection for you? And what I mean by king connection, I'm not necessarily referring to my company or my name, but it is a title I confer to an individual who achieved a certain level of success in their lives, whether it's personal, whether it's career, whether it's financial, who, if you were to co-create with this individual, it will take your business and your life to a whole nother level, I say a 10x level. And now I'm not talking about coming to this individual, because it can be celebrities as a fan. I'm saying I have developed a methodology, strategies for connecting with individuals, and when you meet with them, the leverage is not here and you're here. They're here and you're here. It's you can co-create and see you as an equal co-creating partner. For me, my example would be Magic Johnson. Build conscious communities as a real estate consultant, developer, his experience with developing real estate, plus his experience with being an advisor and connector, is someone I can learn from, and I think him and I can do some great things together. So my question now would be for you within that context: who would you say would be a great king connector to meet and connect with?
Well, given our mission of our company, which is support business growth through expanding consciousness, any leaders of businesses that truly want to build sustainable growth through expanding consciousness, I'd love to meet them, have that conversation, see if there's a way we could support their business by expanding the consciousness of their leaders to be able to grow businesses that truly care about their customers, their communities, and their associates. So it's always a great connection to make. And as I mentioned earlier, businesses that have online communities of conscious leaders that want the kind of content and process we have, love to have that conversation as well.
Okay. And then my last question would be, what book would you recommend that either has been the most impactful, influential in your life, the most impactful, influential in the last week that you've been living with, that your spirit speaks to say, this is a book that I would like to share with the listening audience?
Yeah, great question to end with. There's a book that I've read many times and I refer back to. It's called Seed of the Soul by Gary Zukav. And I read it back in 1992, I believe was the year my father passed away. And it helped me understand the difference between, the personality, our egos, and the soul. And I believe that everybody has a soul that is meant to live in this lifetime, in this particular place or wherever they're living, to be able to carry out a personal mission. And I love the questions you asked me about my purpose and mission. So it helped me understand that everybody beyond their personality, beyond their exterior, is a deeper uh, energy that I believe gets reincarnated into another lifetime. That's my own particular belief, and I just love the way Gary Zukav talks about the soul in a very relatable, simple way, and it helps me understand the reverence when I meet every human being. I look at beyond their exterior, what is the soul of that individual, and how can I connect to that person on that deeper level?
That's an excellent way to end the interview. Seed of the Soul.
Seat, SEAT, like seat, like the seat I'm sitting in, of the Soul by Gary Zukav. That's Zukav. He's been on Oprah many, many times. He's authored many, many other books. That was his second book, and I think the one that's most well known.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, as we bring this interview to a close, I want to give you an opportunity to share any closing thoughts that you may have with our listening audience, as well as information that you'd like to share, so folks want to get more information, they can reach out to you as well.
Absolutely. Thanks, King. So my company, Opportunity Lab, hosts an online community. It's called Opportunity Community. We started it right at the beginning of COVID. We meet every month for an hour. Thursday, August 18th is the next meeting from 4 to 5 Eastern Daylight Time. And we're going to be talking about welcome the future that's already here in the next session. And so you can go on our website, opplab.com, opplab.com. You can sign up for our newsletter. You can sign up for Opportunity Community. We have many different podcasts, videos, and a lot of great content that's free on the website. And you can connect to us through that and book a time to talk to me through the website.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, Mark, thank you for investing the time and energy in the interview today. I definitely appreciate outlaid a lot of great, valuable content. You were vulnerable. You shared some great life experiences, and I'm sure it's going to help enrich the lives of many people who listen to this. To the audience, I want to thank you all for again listening to the King Connection podcast. Until I have my next guest, I want to wish everyone a blessed and productive day.
Thank you, King. Bless you for having me on, and bless your audience. Appreciate it.